This is a proper car this week. We are in an M2 BMW, the OG M2 BMW. This is the N55 engined M2 that came out in 2016. This is actually a 2018 car, which is the LCI car. So it's got the uprated dash, it's got the uprated lights and all that kind of stuff, but for all intents and purposes, it's actually just like the original. It has the N55 engine, which is a single turbo engine. It latterly went on to the twin turbocharged car, which was the Competition, which had the F80 M3 S55 engine. Now, I actually bought this car. This is actually my car, and I will go through the reasons why I bought the N55 engine car over the S55 engine Competition car. So the reasons are that it was a lot less expensive. I don't want to say cheap because it wasn't, but it was less expensive, and for all intents and purposes, the one I have is almost identical in lots of different ways in the sense of the power that it has. I'll get onto that a little bit later. This N55 engine originally came with 365 horsepower and 343 pounds-foot of torque. So I bought the car with a DCT gearbox. You could have got it in a manual or a DCT. The DCT was a lot more expensive, but it is a fantastic gearbox. Now, the manual gearbox is also exceptional. The only thing on the manual gearbox that I don't like, that is in sport mode, it rev matches and you can't seemingly turn that off, and that would really annoy me. I've driven one of them and you can't turn off the rev matching, which is, although it is fantastic, I like to heel and toe myself. So I actually use this as a daily driver. I daily this car. I've already done 1,500 miles in it, and I bought this as a daily, so I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have the DCT for ease. It means it's got 7 gears. It means on the motorway, that 7th gear just nudges a few revs off. It means I've been getting 32 miles to the gallon out of this car, which is, to be honest, when I first bought it, I didn't think I was going to be seeing any more than 25. But I've been getting 33 on one journey, but on average about 31, 32 miles to the gallon. This car has been breathed upon somewhat. This car has a stage 1 tune from Litchfield Imports. Now, Litchfield Imports, as you'll know if you follow my channel, are a favourite tuners of mine, but I completely accidentally bought this car with a Litchfield tune. So this car has a stage 1 tune on it, which is 385 horsepower and 400 pounds-foot. It has also been, I don't want to use the word lowered, but it is on lowering springs. It's on eye-back lowering springs, which does compromise the ride a touch, but it isn't hateful. It's still pretty firm, but it's not horrible because it still has all of the modes down here. In Sport Plus, I wouldn't even touch Sport Plus because it's just the nicest setting for me is Sport mode. It has 3 different modes, well, 4 different modes, I suppose. So it's got Comfort, it's got Sport, it's got Sport Plus, and then you've got Traction mode, which means it puts it in MDM, so M dynamic mode, which means you can then get a little bit of slip, but it is quite aggressive the way that the traction control comes back in. So I prefer to either turn the traction control completely off or have it in sport mode. Sport mode is my favorite setting. So this car, seeing that it's got the Litchfield tune on it, means that it's almost as powerful as the Competition. Being that it's a single turbo car, it has a little bit of turbo lag low down, and you feel like there's a little bit of inertia before you get the full the full weight of this wonderful 3-litre straight 6. It's also got 10mm spacers on it. It's got the M2 CS wheels, which look amazing in my opinion. These are actually copies. They're not the original M2 CS wheels because they are expensive. It also is covered in carbon fibre, which just makes, on the black with the gold wheels, the carbon splitter, carbon everything, looks incredible. There's one thing I really hate about this car, and it's not its fault, it's my fault. I have a very, very rubbish driveway, and I've already cracked the front splitter on this car. I basically cracked it 3 days into owning it. I've cracked it on both sides, and it upsets me every single time I look at the car, but I will change that for a less aggressive front splitter because it's too low. But with the driving dynamics of the car, it actually doesn't affect the driving dynamics of the car at all. On that note, this thing is an absolute weapon. Now, when they first came out, everyone absolutely screamed and shouted about the fact that this is the proper M car. This is the M car that the M3 should have been. And I have to say, I know I'm biased because this is my car, I am totally inclined to agree with them. It's fabulous. It's great as a daily driver. It's great when you get on a bit of twisty road. It's exciting. It feels so special. And that's so difficult in a car that is effectively a daily usable car, to make it feel as special as something, you know, that's more expensive, feel as special as something that is more exotic. This car is just brilliant. It pops and bangs, it burbles, it sounds fabulous. This N55 engine, this has got a standard exhaust on it and only the Litchfield tune, sounds brilliant. The gearbox is absolutely snap sharp. I would totally understand anyone that bought the manual or anyone that bought the DCT. I bought the DCT. It's absolutely down to personal preference. I think they are both exceptional gearboxes. There weren't actually many manuals for sale when I looked at buying one of these, so I liked this one. I liked the spec it was in, so I bought this one even though it was a DCT car and because I'm using it as a daily driver. It's not inexpensive to run. It's not too bad on the fuel, but insurance is not ridiculous, but it's higher than most, and it's 520 quid a year just to tax the thing, which is like 50 quid a month. So there are certain things that you have to bear in mind when looking at buying one of these. This is on Michelin 4S's on the front and it's on Super Sports on the back. I will change it onto 4S's all round, but it doesn't need rears yet. So it's got an incredible amount of all year round grip on the front at the moment, and then it's got not very much grip in a cold, damp, wet day in the middle of winter. In sport mode, it sharpens up the throttle pedal, means you get less turbo lag and you get all of the power. It's so good. The gearbox is very more aggressive and it fires in the gears. It's just absolutely brilliant. You get a lovely whap as it fires in the gears, and then when you go down through the gears you get the rev matching obviously, and then it burbles and pops and bangs and crackles. If you are watching this video to try and work out whether you're wanting to buy one of these or whether you're wanting to buy an M2 Competition, unless you go and drive an M2 Competition back to back with one of the originals, you are never going to be disappointed if you buy one of the originals, which is why I did just that. I thought to myself, okay, well, I've heard that the M2 Competition is a slightly better car because of the sum of its parts make it a slightly better car, but I also remember driving the original and never thinking that it was bad in any way, shape or form. You hear those massive bangs? It sounds absolutely brilliant. It's a really smooth, creamy engine, this engine. Being rear driven, it's very, very exciting in the wet. And I say exciting in the wet, I feel like it could be quite spiteful. I've used the word spiteful in M2 CS before, on my M2 CS film. Go and have a watch of that. I also did a how to drift film with Ben Collins in an M2 CS, which then they're not easy cars because they're quite short wheelbase and they are, you know, all of the power seems to come in at once, especially in the single turbo car. These M2, the originals, only came in 4 different colours. So they only came in black, grey, white and Long Beach blue. The residual value on these is brilliant. They're going to be, honestly, they're really good news for future values as well. And I think people are going to pick one of these up, not do many miles in them, and just cherish them and love them, because this is a proper M car. But you give this its head on a good bit of road, it keeps you on your toes. That's what I'd say about this car. It keeps you on your toes, which makes it exciting to drive quickly. It's not like an Audi RS3, it's not like an Audi RS4 in the sense that those make you feel like you could never unstick it. It's not like a Golf R that makes you feel like you'd have to be doing silly speeds into a corner to unstick the car. Whereas this, it feels like you have to give it a little bit more respect. It feels like you have to modulate the throttle way more than you could just pin one of those other cars and just like disappear into the distance. This car, you have to respect it a little bit more. You have to respect that it is rear driven, that it has nearly 400 horsepower. The M2 Competition has 405 horsepower and a little bit more torque as well. So it's, again, another car that they're aggressive cars, and that's what makes them feel so special. So if you want to go and find something that will make you feel great, looks absolutely wonderful, I haven't even touched on that, the interior, the exterior, it's just a bloody good looking car in my opinion, go and pick up an M2, and I can strongly recommend EAG specialists, who are not sponsoring this video, who are not, don't even know I'm going to mention them, but they were brilliant when I dealt with them. Richard over there, he was very, very good. Go over there, go and have a look, and they are fabulous. I drove it home the 170 miles back towards Bristol with the biggest smile on my face because it was so special.